This is Brayton Rose and Janessa Lanham with Linton-Stockton Student Press, and today we're interviewing Mrs. Amy Swain, who's running for the Indiana State Representative seat of District 62.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so what values did you develop growing up in Indiana?
So I was born and raised here in Indiana, educated here in Indiana, and I was actually in a YMCA program called Youth and Government when I was in high school, where we went to the Indiana State House and held mock legislature and debated bills. I was parliamentarian of the House, and so I learned Robert's Rules of Order so I can run a very good, effective meeting. Growing up in Indiana, too, family is important, church is important. You do things for other people, and you really come together as a community to help whoever needs it, because one of these days it might be you.
And who or what inspired you to run for office?
Well, other than the Youth and Government program, my dad actually ran for city council when I was growing up, and my mom always worked the polls, and she collected absentee ballots and helped people who needed help. So we've always been kind of civically minded ever since I was little. I grew up in that environment. So I think that's probably one of the things. And again, just wanting to help people, that's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What have been your impressions of campaign life so far?
It's busy. So I have a full-time job. I'm a marketing director, and that keeps me really busy. And so usually after work and on Saturdays, I'm out meeting people, going door to door and talking with voters. I've met some wonderful people like yourselves, as well as voters and other candidates, other volunteers for all of the campaigns. We have a shared office here at headquarters, and so everyone kind of helps everyone out, and it's really nice. So yeah, met a lot of people.
What are some of the challenges?
So time's always a challenge, especially here in Indiana, and now that we're getting on into late October, because it starts getting dark about 7 o'clock at night. And since I work till 5 o'clock, that leaves me a very narrow window of trying to get out to meet voters, especially when my District 62, like Braden said, actually covers 4 counties. So we've got the southwestern corner of Monroe, almost all of Greene County, including Linton. We've got the northwestern corner of Daviess County, so Odin and Elnora. And then we've got the that's northeastern. Then we've got the northwestern corner of Martin County, which is Lagodi and Crane. So the Crane Naval Base is actually part of our district.
Your husband of 28 years is the sheriff of Monroe County. So what advice did he give you on running for an elected position?
So Brad is running for his second term as Monroe County Sheriff. He's unopposed. And actually, this is my second term. I'm finishing up my 8th year on my township board. So we've both kind of worked together. He's supported me when I was running and I was opposed. I've supported him when he's been running and he's been opposed. And so he kind of just said, you know, if this is what you want to do, go for it, and I'll do what I can to help.
How do you want to improve education in our district?
So I'd like to make sure that public schools are funded and funded well. I'd like to see teachers not have to struggle for resources. I'd like to see students get the best education that they can, including extracurricular activities. And that takes funding. And one of the other things I'd like to do is really encourage vocational and technical training at the high school level. So why couldn't a student graduate high school with an associate's degree or a journeyman's license, or even certification as a CNA or an LPN? That way, straight out of high school, they could get a really good paying job, and then if they want to go for a 4-year degree or more education, they might be able to afford it without all the student debt that's, so many students are struggling with right now. So that's a couple of the things. There's many more, but we don't have time for all of them.
If you get elected to office, what are some of your other goals?
So some of my top priorities going into office are education, of course, also jobs and healthcare. I'm a former EMT, and I also worked at the Monroe County YMCA, so I know that good outcomes are directly related to prompt, affordable healthcare. And jobs, everyone wants good jobs. I think with the parties, we all want the same thing. It's just we have different ways of going about, reaching those goals. But a legislator will deal with like hundreds of bills over a variety of issues during the course of the 2 years that they're in office. And so I promise to do my homework, research the issues, talk to the people who are experts, because I won't be an expert on everything. And then also talk to the people who might be affected by any legislation that's up for a vote before I decide what to do with a bill.
In a state that traditionally votes Republican, what are some of the challenges you have faced running as a Democrat?
A lot of misinformation, I think. Rather than looking at a party label, either Republican or Democrat or anything else, I think you really need to take a look at the candidate and what they stand for and who they are. What have they done with their life? What do they promise that they're going to do? If they are in an elected position, have they made good on any promises that they've made? On my township board, we wanted to relocate the fire protection and emergency medical services to a centrally located fire station right within the township. As a former EMT, I know how important response times are, so I wanted to make sure that we had the best response time by being right in the middle of the township, and we did that. We also said that we'd have meetings when people could actually attend, because before they were like at 10 a.m. on a weekday in the home of someone. We have them in a public place on a weeknight usually in the evenings. And then when people do come to the meetings, we let them talk. Now again, in a very orderly manner. Like I said, I know Robert's Rules of Order, but we let them offer information, ask questions, and so it's an actual discussion where the public has some input. And so I think you really need to look at that. And with specifically with District 62, it's about a 50-50 district. Even though Indiana might go more Republican within our district, it's almost even. So that's been interesting too. So I guess once I get elected, anything I do, I'm not going to make everybody happy, but I'm going to do my best.
Positions in government are predominantly filled by men. What advice would you give to women who are considering running for office?
Well, I'm part of an organization that actually helps women candidates. We train them and we support them because we want to make sure that people have a good choice. And sometimes the best candidate for a position is going to be a woman. There are 30 women in our state legislature right now. So there are 22 representatives out of 100. There are 8 senators out of 50. So in the whole legislature, there are 30 women out of 150 legislators. So maybe if I get elected, we'll change those numbers a little bit.
What personality traits do you think makes a good politician?
I don't know about a good politician, but a good elected official is the ability to listen and really talk with people about what's important to them rather than saying what's important to the elected official. You really want to try and help people by finding out what they're struggling with and then see where you can connect them with services or funding or anything else that's going to make their quality of life better. And you have to look at what the impact of that is in other areas too, because you might fix one thing over here. Take the minimum wage. So if we increase the minimum wage, that would help workers, right? But if you look at nonprofits and small businesses, if we do it all in 1 year, then that might make them have to lay off people, cut services, increase costs, and that could have a negative effect on someone who's on a fixed income, like a senior citizen or low-income families. So you want to make sure that whatever you do makes sense. So instead of maybe increasing it all in 1 year, maybe we do it over 3 years. And so they have time to adjust without cutting services or cutting people or increasing costs. So I think listening and common sense are pretty good personality traits for an elected official. I think being willing to talk to people on both sides which I'm definitely willing to do. I try not to go in with a preconceived idea. I mean, I have the information, the experience from my own life, but every issue is going to touch several different people with different life experiences and different education, different knowledge. So you want to really work in a collaborative effort rather than just doing, my way or the highway. And so I'm used to working on teams, and I'm used to using the power of the team to kind of come up with the best solution rather than just what I think's best. So I think those are probably three big personality traits that would be good.
And what do you think makes you stand out from Jeff Ellington?
Well, Jeff and I know each other. We're actually Facebook friends, and I know his wife and the kids, and so one of the things I've tried very hard to do is run a positive campaign. I may have pointed out his voting record on some things, and we do differ a little bit in how we would vote on certain issues, and so I think that's probably the biggest difference between us. I live on a farm out rurally. It takes me about a half an hour to get to work every day, 5 days a week. And so there are a lot of things that I might look at from a different perspective. I am a woman. Like I said, I was born and raised here in Indiana, so I care about what happens to Hoosiers. I care about what happens to our veterans and our senior citizens. And I'm sure Jeff cares about those things too. So like I said before, I think most people who are running for office want the same things. They want better jobs. They want kids to have a good education. They want people to be taken care of. We just have very different ways about how we want to get there.
This has been Brayton Rose and Janessa Lanham with the Linton-Stockton Student Press. Thank you for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.